welcome to Let's Go Podcast, episode number 6. Today we have in our show a 13-year pro wrestling veteran, the Don Michael Morleone. He's currently the EPW Heavyweight Champion and NHPW Art of Fighting Champion. And we are going to learn more about the highs and lows in the life of a pro wrestler. So let's go and find out.
Greetings, sir.
How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you, sir?
Very well, very well. Sorry
How's
it
it-
took so long to get everything together to get the interview done, man, but we got
problem,
here.
sir.
So.
No problem, sir. Yeah. How's your family, sir?
Very good. My wife took my son to a kid's birthday party today, so got plenty of time.
Sir, first of all, congratulations on winning EPW Championship. And
Thank you.
is the Hybrid Championship still with you? Hybrid.
No. Lost that one a while ago. At the moment, I've got the Art of Fighting Championship.
Oh, okay, sir. Sir, so like, I'm really excited for this one. Yeah, I've been waiting for like.
Oh,
So, what was your? How did you start getting in pro wrestling, sir? When you first
Um,
start?
Do you mean like how did I first get into it, or how did I
Yeah.
first like actual pro wrestling like did it? Because I loved that as a kid. Like
Yeah.
it was the best thing ever. Like I liked watching a few sports, but
Yeah.
watching guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin and stuff, The Rock, all those guys really like got me excited about it. And then when there was a tour, because there's not a lot of wrestling that came to Australia.
Yeah.
Like any of you nowadays, they've got the WWE goes pretty much everywhere in the world.
Just now it went,
Um,
yeah, Saudi Arabia. Just yesterday.
Yeah, that's it. They
Yeah.
had the Greatest Rumble, which I haven't seen yet, so no spoilers. Okay, I haven't.
Okay,
It's
sir.
gone too late.
I was going to ask you a question about those the events, so I'll keep my mouth shut.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, it was on really late last night, and I had to get some sleep, and couldn't watch it, but I'm gonna watch it today. So yes, no spoilers.
Okay, sir. So
But yeah, there was a group called World Wrestling Allstars. It was just basically a promotion group, and they paid a bunch of guys. Who was around at the time? It was Scott Steiner. So long ago now. There was a few of the bigger name guys that weren't in WCW or WWE at the time. They toured, and there was a group of guys in the crowd who had these ECW shirts on, which is what EPW used to be. And I saw them, and I got online and checked them out, and they had a training school in probably about half an hour drive from my house. And just turned up at the training and got absolutely beaten the crap out of for 2 days at a training camp. And then
do they beat you
from
for
there...
real? Do they beat you for
Well, for sure. Like, it's not so much like just stand there beating me up, but all the moves and stuff to try to learn how to be a professional wrestler. It's not all love taps and handshakes, It's still clothesline. You still get hit hard, man. It's a tough sport. But yeah, like when I say beaten up, like those guys were conditioned to
the bumps.
doing all the moves and stuff.
Yeah.
When you first learn, your body's like it's soft, you know what I mean? Like you're not ready, and then once you're in the training, you become a bit hardened to it, you know what I mean? You become stronger, and it all still. There's some guys who will hit hard no matter what in wrestling, and there's some guys who are a little bit more gentle. So, but when they're with the training camps, they made a point to either not to make people give up, but they want to push you. They want to test you to see if you really want to be a wrestler, or if you just want to be someone who rocks up and, gives half an effort and doesn't really try. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And after that, what happened? Like after your first training?
After my first training,
Yeah.
I went home and my legs hurt and my body hurt, and I rested up, and then I started training. And at the time, I was able to go about 3 times a week, and had to start up like in gym training and stuff, and or go down there and they would basically show me all the moves. And it took me a year of basically learning it before I got my first chance to be on a show and try and do it in front of the crowd to see if I was any good. And and anyone who just starts wrestling is not very good. They think they know everything and try hard, but it's something that takes a long time to really. I mean, I still haven't perfected it. I've gotten very good at it, but it's a tough thing. You can't always just do the same thing all the time, and it's always going to be good. You know, you've got to try and do different things, and the more you try it out, the more you find the reaction from the crowd, what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, after, let's say, a year of training, I started out and I had my first match on a show against a wrestler called and he was we're both very young men at the time. That was about 14 years ago. And then we, just every chance I got, I just had to wrestle. Like any chance I got, I'd go to training, let's say 3 times a week if I could, because depending when the trainer is available and stuff, and say getting in the gym, trying to keep myself fit, and just constantly pushing forward, working harder, trying to improve. And the more you wrestle, the better you get.
Okay. So like, when did you feel like while entering like a match, like this is something big, you know?
Yes, every time.
Every time.
Over the years, it get less intense. Like when I first started, the whole day I'd be nervous and worried. Like, you know, am I getting everything right? You know, am I going to pay attention? Am I fit? Am I ready? And then over the years, it's sort of the time from when I show up at a show and to bell time, like before I go out, it gets shortened to the nervousness. But it's always just before I go through the curtain. There's this big anxiety, like, oh, am I ready for this? Am I ready? Can do it? You know, I warm up, I do some push-ups, do some squats, and have a little quick like jog, and like just try and get myself ready. And then once you go out through that curtain, though, it all sort of not switches off, but from when I first started, you walk through that curtain, you're still nervous from the start to the end. But now, once I walk through, you got to turn it on. You know what I mean? You're like, your nervousness has to go, because you're putting on a show. There's people who pay money to see you do something. If you don't perform, well, it's
and we have to
you want to give
entertain them as well. Yeah. If you get nervous,
100%, man. It's a different kind of entertainment. You know, they're not there to see,
drama,
two guys just punch and kick each other. They're like, oh, I want to see this flip and that move. And the thing is, I've been a heel and a face like different times throughout my career. And there's people that literally come there, they pay their ticket to come and yell abuse at you. And you've got to give them that opportunity. Right?
Yeah. Sir, is your EPW Hardcore Challenge still on? The $3,000 challenge?
No. That's that finished a while ago. The challenge. Almost lost it a couple of times, but we found a way. My manager at the time, Luke Boland, we found a way to hold on to our money in the title, and it was a lot of good fun. Like that was for some people a highlight to get down to, because they would see myself and Lukey try and find ways to cheat people out of that challenge, and ended up I had a match. It was what was it called? Like a battle royal, sort of like not a Royal Rumble, but a battle royal where different people come in, and it actually turned out that
gauntlet.
Luke, not a gauntlet. It was everyone sort of in at once.
Okay. Oh.
And Lukey got knocked over and he fell down, and my own manager beat me. So by accident, he got knocked out, fell on top of me, and the ref counted the pin and was no longer the hardcore champion.
Because that concept was like pretty unique one, yeah. I think
very unique.
Very unique. That was awesome.
I
like that concept.
No one. If there was a bookmaker on that one, everyone would lose.
So, sir, coming back, did you get into any other sport before as a child, before coming to pro wrestling?
Not intensely. When I was younger, like Australian rules football is very big in Australia. It's not very big anywhere else in the world. It's a very different sport. But I was no good at cricket. I tried.
Yeah.
But cricket was not my forte. I tried rugby for a little while, but just my size would have played well, but my fitness wasn't good as a kid, so I didn't really push through. And then I attempted for a small time some Olympic weightlifting.
Okay.
But again, it didn't different things in my life at the time. It didn't work out that I could commit enough to it, and it didn't. There was something about pro wrestling when it came up. There was nothing could have stopped me from doing it. Whereas other sports I played, it was sort of I play it, but it didn't hold me. You know what I mean? It didn't grab me like pro wrestling. Yeah.
Oh, I got it. So like for all the youngsters, like if a youngster were to become like a pro, if they come and ask you like I want to become pro wrestler, what advice would you give them?
I give them the advice straight away. I'll give them is if that's what you want to be, make sure that you go to school, get educated, find not so much something to fall back on, but you find a lot of people in sports if they might be pretty good at a sport, but say at any time injuries can happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they might be the best at it, and then their first year of training, they dislocate their knee and it's never quite right again, so they can't compete anymore. So always get educated, find a means to make money, because especially in wrestling, there's not much money. You generally can't. Yeah, you can't rely on it to pay big. There's ways to make it work, but it's tough. And if you have some sort of life skill, you know, say you do the training and you're like, you know what, I need to. You can use that life skill to build up some money and then maybe go on some tours, go to other countries and do some more training. But if you have that life skill in your back pocket, no matter what happens, you'll be okay. The other piece of advice is, play as many sports as you can. Be active, be fit. And there's no, like, you can't do, as a kid for, say, the NFL, they can play it to an extent from a very young age, and they can get a grasp of it, whereas pro wrestling you can't do. It's you could join an Olympic wrestling club or an amateur wrestling club, and it will give you a very good base for holds. Maybe even judo to a point would give you good. Any kind of martial art, I suppose, would be a good grounding or a good base towards pro wrestling, because the flexibility and the strength. That would all play well into pro wrestling, but it's hard because there's no kids pro wrestling classes, you know. It doesn't work. But yeah, any kind of sport, just keep fit, keep active, and then a lot of places at 16 will start a more basic training sort of thing, because you're starting to move into that adult, but it won't be the big moves and stuff. It'll be more, like I say, the holds and the transitions and the active fitness. And then once you're 18 and your body's full grown, you know what I mean? There's less chance of getting injured and stunting growth and stuff. Then you can fully go into it. And with some sort of sport or martial art background, that's always good to have. Or let's say strength and flexibility, and any sort of MMA training, like I say, the wrestling or the judo, that all again holds and techniques, because that's all incorporated in wrestling at the end of the day.
Okay, so talking about martial arts, how did you think Ronda Rousey's WrestleMania debut was? Like,
for someone who has never been in a pro wrestling thing, she did really well. I'd probably say that was my favorite match on the show. The build up and the hype, and I mean, I love Triple H, Stephanie McMahon. Like, when I was first watching wrestling, Stephanie was a little bit older than me, but not much older. She was my dreamboat. So it's good to see her. She's still a part of it and still kicking goals and stuff. And Kurt Angle, Olympic medal gold wrestler, he's still in it. That was like a reminiscent of like my younger years watching wrestling. Those guys doing stuff I always enjoy. But yeah, Ronda, she held her own. You know what I mean? Didn't look out of place like some people do when they first step into wrestling, but did really well.
Yeah, I thought she slammed Stephanie pretty hard with her judo moves. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I
I
had
thought
some experience in that. It
she
was
like whack
very good.
whack
And
out
then the
there.
armbar as well. Oh man, thought she was gonna snap her arm.
Sir, like with the rise of UFC and MMA, do you think that pro wrestling has seen its days, or will it continue to compete with them as an entertainment product?
It's a tough one to say because I feel they're very different. Like it's very. I don't think you will get crossover fans. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah,
there are hardcore UFC fans who will never ever see wrestling as a sport. And just no matter how much you convince them, and you even with the Brock Lesnar and the Ronda Rousey
yeah,
comparisons, like even in the UFC, like Ken Shamrock was a huge name
yeah,
in UFC before it was, well, not the UFC, but in mixed martial arts before it was a big thing, and he was crossed over straight into pro wrestling and did really well. Dan Severn, who was another guy, the same sort of thing. Um, it's tough because UFC will always get bigger, but with all the controversy with Conor McGregor, you might think it's pro wrestling.
yeah, yeah. Because he put some pro wrestling stuff. Actually, he stole some pro wrestling stuff in there.
Yes, he does the Vince McMahon billionaire strut, and out in the car park throwing chairs through windows. He's an entertainer.
Sir, what do you think of the bodybuilder fetish in that pro wrestling world? Is it important to become have a good physique for pro wrestling to be successful?
It's not 100% necessary because you guys like Kevin Owens, who does not have, he has the furthest from a bodybuilding physique, but he's very popular.
Yeah.
But
Because
there is a very
I think
go on.
if you have the talent, pro wrestling talent, then you don't need the bodybuilder physique in there.
Yes, it's good. You have to be strong no matter what to take
Yeah.
the falls and the hits and stuff like that. But it's not necessary, but it gives it it separates it. The idea of the bodybuilding physique, it separates the wrestlers from your everyday people. They clearly look like a superhero, you know what I mean? And to
Yeah.
kids, that makes a big difference. They go, that guy looks like a superhero rather than just, my dad's mate Jimmy or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Kevin Owens, you'd see physiques like that all over the place.
Yeah.
Anyone can sort of like that. But you would have to be super talented. You couldn't just. There's a lot of bodybuilding look guys who wouldn't be very talented, but because they have the look, it pushes them through. But very few guys without talent could have the non-bodybuilder look.
Yeah. So CM Punk wants to the in WWE they're because they have the bodybuilder physique, like John Cena and other people they get pushed to the top. So how important is the push from the management side?
Well, it's always important, because if the management they control, I mean, the fans to an extent control who is seen as important, because if they don't get behind whoever is there, then the fans won't come and pay tickets. But the management, at the end of the day, they're the ones that go, all right, well, you're going to get this and you're going to be doing more. You're going to be in the main event. You're going to be having the bigger match. The thing about it is the talent will speak volumes. But at the same time, they're going to put someone on a poster.
Yeah.
They've got to look a certain way because it needs to present. As a business, you've got to present yourself in a certain way. There's aspects that will bring people in.
Yeah.
For instance, back in the 80s, it didn't matter if they had bodybuilders' physiques, but if the guy was 7 foot tall, he could be as fat as he liked,
Yeah.
slow in the ring. But because he was that larger than life, something you don't see every day. It's an attraction. It brings people in.
Yeah.
And so the way WWE has at the moment, they have all aspects. You've got guys like at the moment in NXT, there's guys called Heavy Machinery,
Yeah.
and they're less of the bodybuilding
They're
body
huge.
shape and more of the world's strongest man. They're
Yeah.
just huge,
Yeah.
but also talented and can move. They're not like a good example of a guy who, while wasn't the greatest wrestler, but was a good entertainer and was just a good looker. Is like the Great Khali. The guy was humongous, like huge, and like in real life you would have messed with him. Period.
Yeah.
Like no matter what his wrestling ability was, because he probably with one backhand he'd knock most people out. So that attraction is good. He doesn't have to be the greatest wrestler in the world. He doesn't have to do moonsaults and super technical chain wrestling.
Yeah.
But he's an attraction, and it's something that draws people in. Not everyone will like John Cena. Not everyone will like Great Khali. Not everyone will like Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
So you've got to provide the one guy that someone will like to bring them in. Good example is Zack Ryder. He has a bodybuilder physique, can do some amazing things in the wrestling ring, but wasn't particularly special. And then he went out and did the
Long Island IC
podcast.
Yeah,
Long Island IC. Yeah, he had that podcast that brought people in, because not everyone would be able to watch the wrestling TV show because they couldn't afford pay TV or it wasn't on their local stations. But everyone's got YouTube. Somehow everyone can get to YouTube, and they found Long Island IC, and that helped him get. So it's having your own niche that can drag people in. Like at the moment, I forget his name. He just recently lost the US title.
Bobby Roode.
No. He was in three man band. Why can't I think of his name?
Jinder Mahal.
Jinder Mahal. Yes, he was very. Again, that's the opposite. Like has been a very good wrestler for a long time.
Yeah.
And then he had some time off, and he went out and he got that bodybuilder's physique, and it did wonders for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's having. That's it. US champion.
Pushed to the moon.
To the moon.
Like out of the blues, he went WWE champion from a jobber.
Yes, exactly. And what got him there was that bodybuilder's physique.
Yeah.
Again, though, it might not always work. You got guys like Ryback who looked like he would have been on top forever.
Yeah.
Had the bodybuilder's physique and was semi-popular, but just didn't, for whatever reason, maybe he didn't get along with someone who was in control of, the management and stuff, and it just didn't work out for him. He's no longer in the WWE.
Yeah.
You can never say this is exactly what's going to do it. It's a gamble.
Sir, so like coming back to you, who is the smoothest worker you have ever worked with, and the roughest one?
Smoothest worker I've ever worked with. It'd have to be David Storm.
Okay.
He's locally in Perth. He's a guy that helped bring local wrestling to Perth. Has been doing it a few years.
I think he told you would never be EPW champion. Was that a promo, or he totally meant it?
You'll leave that up to the decision of the people watching, I guess. No, it created buzz. Everything you do, it creates buzz. He's a very good friend of mine, really.
So
someone I'd never actually worked with. Yes, it was a promo. It was a promo. Okay. You got it out. At that time, I wasn't seen as a guy who could get to the EPW Championship, and the build up to that was good. And he played the part well. He was the ultimate bad guy in the company, and I was the guy who stopped him, who took the title from him. Okay. But very smooth, very easy to work with. The roughest guy, but there's probably... See, it's hard to determine, because you say the roughest guy... in wrestling, there's guys who you work with and they'll hit you, but it's safe. Okay. But it's still very solid. So...
has that ever happened to you, coming straight out? Has that ever happened to you? They come straight out and hit you right in the ribs very hard.
I've had there was a guy a few years ago, Bobby Marshall, and he wasn't unsafe, but he had this forearm shot that he would give you, and it would wake you up. You would be, if you weren't quite prepared for the match, you weren't quite switched on, he'd hit you with that forearm, and you're like, oh, this is happening. Like, it just got real. Another guy with a very similar shot is Chris Weiss. and Jared Slate. Those three guys. At no point are you in there and you're like, oh, this guy's trying to hurt me. Any of those guys. But you're very much at that point where like he's going to hit me hard. And when you get hit hard, you hit hard back, man. Like it's and that's what they want. They don't hit you hard and expect you not to hit hard back. They expect that solid contact. And there's a lot of guys who don't appreciate that, and that's understandable. They're working a lot more often, or maybe they've had some injuries and they prefer it a bit more worked, so that it looks more hard than it is. But then there's some guys who like, I want to know when I've been hit so that I don't. If you didn't hit me, I wouldn't sell it like you've hit me. But when you hit me, I know, so I can sell it. Then there's some. There was some rough guys who I've never really been. Actually, there was one guy who kicked me in the head one time. I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't think he was trying to injure me, but it definitely rattled me. Was Shane Haste. Okay. In my very early years of wrestling. I haven't wrestled him in a while, so I don't know if he's gotten any better.
So I always wanted to ask, like, if a pro wrestler like hurts any other pro wrestler, like causes a severe injury with intention, then what happens to the pro wrestler that caused that injury? Does he get fired, or?
I haven't come across anyone who has intentionally ever tried to hurt anyone in pro wrestling. It's something that is definitely frowned upon. And you can never, a lot of times you'd never really be able to tell if they have gone out there and been like, physically actually tried to be like, I'm going to injure you. Yeah. It's something, I just don't think it happens in anywhere I've wrestled. It may happen in other places. Yeah. But yeah, if someone was out there legitimately trying to hurt people, they would definitely be taken, at the very least, taken off shows until they basically start working with people in a better, more respectful manner. Because at the end of the day, you're out there, you're doing the wrestling, and they're basically taking that guy's life in your hands. They're giving you their body to do moves and stuff. You got to be able to trust them. If you can't trust them, then it just makes the show look bad and the match look bad. You're not giving the people their money's worth. You're not entertaining them. It doesn't. Yeah. It goes from being entertainment to something else. And while it doesn't happen, it definitely would. A lot of people would either not get booked anymore, and no one would work with them, because if you legitimately try to injure someone, everyone knows everyone. Yeah. So if someone tried to injure me, I'd tell management and bookers, like, don't book that guy. He's dangerous. He's trying to hurt people. And chances are they wouldn't, or they would talk to him and say, listen, this is what's been said, and if you don't smarten your act up, we won't work with you.
Oh, okay. So how do you recover from a botched move? Like, have you ever botched a move and the crowd's...
botched moves?
Yeah.
It depends how bad the botch is. Like, I've had a few. I mean, quite often you finish a match and you end up with like sore joints, or you land on your elbow or your shoulder, and it won't be very good. It's just you have to take time off, rest it, slowly return to exercise, and to see how it goes. There's been a few guys I know who have had like very serious knee injuries, and they have to have surgery, and then it takes time. The worst I've ever had is compressed vertebrae in my spine, and that took some time to get healed, but I didn't do it right. I kept wrestling and just altered my matches so that I could continue without further injury, which wasn't a good idea. If I had have just recovered and got back, I'd have been better. But thankfully, I have recovered from that injury. So.
Okay. So what about the crowd? Do they like tease you for watching a move?
It depends if they like you or not.
Okay.
If they like you, then they commiserate and they try and let it be. And it depends on the crowd as well. There's been some bad crowds. They chant things like "you effed up" and uh, quite often you get, if you botch a move, that people just laugh and you move on, or if you can, you try and work with it. If you botch a move and people laugh at you, you interact with them and you make them more interested in what's happening, and then maybe you go for the move again and you botch it again, like depending on how bad it is. If it's not something that can injure yourself with, then you get the other guy to do it and he hits it properly, and then everyone, enjoys it more,
So what about botched promo? Like
Botched promos.
Yeah.
You pretend they didn't happen. You just keep moving forward. You just yeah. Again, or you play on it. You let them. You stop. You let them have their little chant, and you finished yet? No, and then they come back again. And sometimes you've got to let the fans think they got one up on you.
Yeah.
And then they enjoy it more. Like even though they did get one up on you, if you pass it off as nothing, then they probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. But if you botch the promo and you run with it, you
become a star again.
You bring it back up, and then instead of going, hey, remember when he botched it, they go, hey, remember when he botched it, and then he kept talking about it and it made us laugh even more. But it's hard at the time because you get embarrassed, you're like, oh no, I can't believe I just said that,
Sir, what do you think about Roman Reigns and his promo wrestling style and the push that he's been giving? Because a lot of people think that he's been shoved down the throats.
It's one of those things where he's very good. Roman Reigns is very good. He's tried a few things, that whole suffer and succotash thing. It just didn't work. The guy promo. That's it. But in saying that, I remember watching after, I can't remember what show it was, maybe even last year, when he came out and he had the microphone. It was probably a post-WrestleMania one, because they're always the loudest crowds post-WrestleMania. Yeah. And he walks out and he goes to say something in the microphone, and the crowd goes nuts. They won't let him talk, and so he puts it down and he looks around again, brings the microphone back up. When they start to die down, they lose their mind, and then puts it back down, and he's working the crowd. They think that they're getting under his skin, but he's working them. He's letting them again think that they're in control. But they're not. He's very smart. He's the kind of guy who they have very much gone, he's our man, and this is what he's going to do. And but at the same time, they say he's been pushed down their throats, but Brock Lesnar just beat the tar out of him at WrestleMania, like just bled everywhere. Is that can still considered a push if you don't win? You know what I mean? And then in the same people, it can change all the time. The fans are so finicky. They'll love someone one week and hate them the next. And then when they start hating them, they turn heel and they love them again, because they feel like they were in control. But again, they're paying the tickets. They're turning up. They're watching the pay-per-views. And maybe Roman Reigns isn't everyone's cup of tea, but there's someone else on the show that they go to watch, or they go there. I guarantee it's like John Cena as well. There are people who pay their money to boo them, even though they're supposed to cheer them. But that's still a ticket sale, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Of course it
is. So who wins in the end, Like.
Sir, what do you enjoy playing more, face or a heel?
Heel is easier, because if you mess up and they make fun of you, well, they're supposed to anyway. Yeah. If you're a face and you mess up and they make fun of you, it's kind of embarrassing, because it's not supposed to happen, It's when since I've had a child, my boy Austin, I prefer being a face, because it gives him someone, like, I do the right things. It gives him someone to look up to, and I'm not cheating and doing the wrong things, and it can put that in his mind that that's the right thing to do. But I always enjoyed being a heel, because I think there's a part of me that enjoys getting a rise out of people. When you go around and you enter, I spend most of my time, rather than in the match, walking around ringside and having people have a go at me, and I have a go back at them. And again, you let them win, and they remember that, I got him, I burned I burned the Don, and that can be more fun. But it's good when it's a good feeling you get when you go out there and the people get behind you, or there's someone that's like, oh, you're my favorite wrestler, you know, you're like, that's always a good feeling. Better than if you're a heel and someone goes, oh, you're my favorite wrestler, then you're like, well, I'm doing my job wrong, you know.
Okay.
If you like me and I'm the bad guy, then I'm not doing my job right. But if you hate me and I'm the bad guy, I must be doing something right, you know.
I love Kevin Owens though, even though he's a heel. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
that's
awesome.
the thing. Yeah,
so
yeah.
Funny,
No. But yeah, that's a different thing I find in like independent wrestling to like WWE as well. That he, as much as he is a heel, like to the kids, he's a bad guy, so you know that's his role. But to the adults that want to sort of stick it to the powers that be, like Shane McMahon or at the time it was Daniel Bryan, they want to feel like it's the classic Stone Cold Steve Austin thing where, you know, he's stunners the boss or they beat up their boss. There's so many people out there like, he might be the bad guy, but he got to kick the crap out of his boss. I want to do that my whole life, you know? It adds that extra element, which I think is one of the more fun things about the WWE is you have people that sort of can sort of go both ways, and the adults don't dig the John Cena as much because he's the comic book superhero and the Roman Reigns, but then they enjoy the bad guys who can make them laugh and stuff like that. So like I say, they're always trying to get that ticket sale, you know, whether they like someone or hate someone. If they pay attention to them, then that's what matters.
Sir, how did you come with the name the Don Michael Morleone?
Well, I've always been a big fan of like gangster movies, like Scarface and The Godfather and Goodfellas, all that type of stuff, and like the hip hop as well, like the gangster rap sort of stuff. That was when I was younger. I quite enjoyed a lot of that stuff. And watching the movie, have you seen the movie The Godfather?
No, I've not seen it.
Okay, so it's if you haven't seen it, the main character, his name is Michael Corleone.
Yeah, because I was searching you on the net, and Michael Corleone came. Yeah, and it dressed up in a Don. I thought like maybe this is the character you got it from.
Yeah, 100%. Like when I first started, it was very much meant to be the Al Pacino sort of look, because I get the dark hair and the sort of the Italian features. That was what I was going for. But then obviously I couldn't do it exactly, so my last name starts with an M. I put the M on there for Morleone, changed it a little bit, and in it, my original plan was to do a very much a Godfather-esque sort of role where I didn't do so much. I would have people do the work for me. But when you first start off, it's hard to go, oh, this is what I'm going to do, because it doesn't always fit in with the show. They're like, oh no, we just need a guy to go in there and get beaten up by our big name guys. You know, and that's where a lot of guys start off. So it's like, I kind of can't be like this guy who runs everything if I'm getting beat up all the time. So kept the name, and just sort of went with whatever was sort of flowing. Eventually, I hope to do that sort of character where, not as active. I'll have people who will go out and fight matches for me, and eventually do the match and be the ultimate, you know, bad guy that does the wrong sort of things, you know.
Sir, would you ever like to transition to MMA like CM Punk did?
No, thank you. No, thank you. It's a very different kind of sport in the sense that, like, at the end of the day, as much as they go out there and they may or may not hate each other. Some guys in MMA do, some guys don't. At the end of the day, you're trying to knock that other guy out. And I have a lot of respect for guys who can compete in that, because it's tough. Like, I mean, to think about the fact that you're in there with someone who his whole objective is to knock you out. It's an intimidating thing. And whereas with wrestling, it's more of an entertainment side. Like, I'm out there to give everyone the best show that I can, and to, at the end of the day, take care of the other guy, make it look like we're trying to knock each other out. But not actually physically trying to
entertainment.
Do it. Whereas MMA, entertainment, yeah.
Yeah.
And not that, yeah, not, yeah, 100%. Mad respect for guys who do it. Like the guy who the number one contender for the Explosive Pro Wrestling Championship at the moment, Chris Weiss. He's currently in Japan, and he had a bare knuckle boxing match.
Okay.
And like that was 100% like legit. He was, the other guy in there was trying to knock him out. He was trying to knock the other guy out, and luckily for Chris Weiss, he won, and now he wrestles for 0-1 in Japan. And when he comes back, we're gonna have a match. And knowing the fact that he's gone into a 100% legitimate bare knuckle boxing match is a scary thought.
Even at the, at an old age though.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, it's like I say, it's like boxing. It's a very intense sport, MMA, but it's a different objective. I find myself physically I could, like if it came down to it and I had to fight someone, I don't lack the confidence to do that. But I just don't think MMA is for me.
So would you like to change your gimmick in the future?
I change it quite a bit. The name, any sort of independent scene, like I've built up a bit of a reputation with it, so I'm more than happy to stick with that. But over the years, I have had different characters with the same name. Like when I first started, I was in a group called the European Union. With
Sex Mafia.
An English group. Yeah, I was in the Sex Mafia as well, which played a little into my character, but I was less the in control guy and more of just a guy who was there as like a hitman or a bodyguard or whatever. I was in a group called Team Allstar, and we wore all basketball gear. We're more of a hip hop sort of drawing in there, which was one of the more fun ones. And then currently in Generation Zero, I'm the leader, and I was, but it was less of the mafia and more of just a group of upstart young people trying to be the best. We were just kind of dicks, not really. We didn't do a whole lot at first, and then over time we built up, and then people started to like us, and then it built us to this point. So maybe in a few years it may change again. For me, it's all about the landscape of where I'm wrestling at, what is required from me. Actually, currently I wrestle for we call the Wrecking Crew. And it's all very 80s style, bright colors, the Zuba pants, and to 80s gorilla presses and all that sort of stuff. So it's good in a sense that it's not like wrestling was back in the 70s and 80s where guys couldn't be seen doing anything but their one character. You can play around with it.
Sir, talking about, would you like to talk more about Sex Mafia and the hottest female superstar, wrestling superstar?
The hottest man alive.
And the hottest man alive also.
Yes. It's so weird how the Sex Mafia came about. I was working for New Horizon Pro Wrestling, and I was doing some things, but never had anything specific that we were getting into. And then at the time, they just said, "Oh, look, you can team up with Jay Taylor, the hottest man alive." And the booker at the place was kind of like, "What do you guys come up with a name?" And like we threw out a bunch of dumb ones. Nothing really stuck. And then he just turns around and goes, "He's the hottest man alive, and you're the mafia, and you're Sex Mafia." And we're like, "Okay." We had a lot of fun with that. Basically trying to, some people with wrestling, they're like, "I'm the toughest man in the world," and they never let anything get up on them. But we were a bit more silly. Things would happen that even though we thought we were super tough, that would put us in positions where we're like, don't look so tough, and the people just enjoyed it. And we had a friend, Gorgeous Gary, he was part of the group as well, and he was this bright green and pink flamboyant wrestler, and then he donned the black and the black shirt and kept it the darker colors, and then we ended up recruiting David Nero, just because he had very good style, and Jay Taylor was doing singles wrestling, more in the singles thing, and then they needed a tag, so I tagged with David Nero, and he's a good guy to look at. He's very athletic, does lots of moves and very technically sound. And and then we needed another couple of guys who were sort of like the lower end sort of flunkies who go out and get beaten up for us, but who are actually very good wrestlers. Liam Mendel and Julian Ward. And Julian Ward's someone to look at too. He'll be in the next couple of years. He'll be huge. If he doesn't start right now, in a couple of years, he'll be one of the biggest names in independent wrestling. And they were all in our team, and it was good fun. We were like the NWO of New Horizon Pro Wrestling. We were the faction that everyone had to beat, you know. And it's almost got to the point where they loved to hate us. I actually got a really good opportunity as well from being in Sex Mafia. I was in a match with Homicide and Low Key. That was a good fun match. But yeah, it was one of those things that wasn't a long-term plan. It just sort of spurred out of nowhere, and we just had a lot of fun with the gimmick, and the people loved to hate us. They didn't love us at all. They hated us. Again, they paid their ticket to come and yell things at us and abuse us, and and that was
you won.
A really fun thing. Yeah, that's at the end. The guy who collects ticket sales, you know.
So one last question. What would be your ultimate goal in your life and pro wrestling career?
If you had asked me that maybe 5 to 8 years ago, I'd have said to be in the WWE. That would be it, to be there and be a part of the show, even if it was in any kind of role. But since having a kid and I'm married, I've got like a mortgage and stuff, it's going to be really tough to do anything along those lines. If the opportunity came up, but believe I would do whatever I could to be a part of it. But it's not something that I see as impossible, but I don't see it as something that happens. To be honest, my biggest goal in wrestling, to be honest, is just to push what we have in Australia. At the moment, the wrestling scene in Australia is really on the up. There's a bunch of guys in NXT at the moment. You got Shane Thorne and Nick Miller. They're from Perth. The same company I wrestle for, from EPW. You've got Buddy Murphy. He was from Melbourne, and he's big in 205 Live and NXT at the moment. In Japan at the moment, I say Chris Weiss. There's a few other guys who I hope they're not mad at me, are doing big things in Japan. With New Japan Pro Wrestling did a tour of Australia. Included Australian guys like Slex, Mr. Juicy, Gino Gambino. Who else was it? Elliot Sexton, Marcus Pitt, and Damian Slater. Damian Slater, he was from Adelaide. He now lives in Perth. He was in the WWE Cruiserweight Classic. And unfortunately, he was eliminated in the first round, but it was by Tajiri, and he's pretty much a WWE legend. In England at the moment, he's not Australian, but he's from New Zealand. Travis Banks is the Progress champion, and Joey Axel is an Australian guy who's doing big things in Europe at the moment. There's so many different names of guys who are just making headways in different areas in the world and really putting Australia on the map. And again, there's guys doing tours here like World Series Wrestling. They're bringing a lot of international names over. The House of Hardcore doing tours. We just finished a tour with Progress Wrestling. I had a hardcore match with Jimmy Havoc. Pete Dunne, the current WWE UK champion, he had a match against David Storm. The UK champion. He's he had a match with David Storm, Trent Seven, and Tyler Bate came over. Tony Storm, she's an Australian who went to England. But yeah, there's big things happening around the world of wrestling. It's everything is just expanding, and it is becoming more and more popular over time. To be honest, much more popular than it was when I first started wrestling. And we're definitely getting more worldwide recognition, and I just hope to add to that recognition rather than to subtract to it, which I feel like I'm adding to it at the moment.
So you're doing it.
Oh, thank you. I just hope that it gets to the point where in Australia, Australian guys can get paid and be promotional wise as good as any of the American guys.
Sir, what about life, sir? How do you see it? or pro wrestling is in life?
I okay. In life, just that's yeah. I don't look too far forward. I just look for more to trying to raise my son right, make sure he has all the opportunities he can afford. Anything that I didn't have, I want for him. And just be happy and healthy, and take care of my wife and my kid. And yeah, that's pretty much just be happy.
Okay.
I think that's my big goal in life, you know. And wrestling helps with that.
Okay, sir. That's it for today, sir. Thank you so much for coming and joining in, sir. I'm really really happy for for right now. You don't know, like I'm really happy that you joined in.
No worries.
And
No worries. Well, thank you for contacting me.
yeah,
It's good to know that people know who I am in India. You know, I'm
yeah.
not just around the corner. People know me. Actually, internationally renowned. I can actually say that now. You know, it's good.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We'll maybe I'll have you back in the show in the future, sir. If you have time for it.
Yes, sure.
Uh,
No worries, mate. You
okay.
let me know.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great day, sir. Thank you very much.
So that was the Don Michael Morleone and his story. It will be great to have him back again. It was really awesome to talk to him. Uh, and that's it. It's the end of our show. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great day.